Hi there, Medical Wildcats. I'm Joseph Guggenheim. I'm a 1972 alum of the medical school, and this month my topic is improv, improvisational theater in Chicago. Chicago is where this began. And in this slide, you can see some of the stars who got their start in Chicago improvisational theater. Stephen Colbert at the upper right and John Belushi at the lower right. It's fitting that we do this in October because October is National Arts and Humanities Month. And there are several art forms that started in Chicago. One of them is Chicago blues, and Muddy Waters is considered the father of Chicago blues. This music is characterized by electric instruments, distortion effects, rolling bass, and it influenced early rock. Gospel music began in Chicago. It is characterized by hope and praise instead of doom and gloom of previous music. And it uses the call and response method, where the pastor will sing something and the congregation will respond. And this grew out of the fact that many in the congregation could not read. The Hammond organ was introduced into gospel music in the mid and early 20th century. And there's also a four-part harmony in a lot of gospel music. Improvisational or improv theater also began in Chicago. And a lot of people associate this with comedy, but it is also used for therapy, really rehabilitation, and actor training. There are many actors and performers who got their start in Chicago improv, and you can see a picture of many of these here. Many of these are familiar names. You can see them when they looked much younger than you may remember them now. Stephen Colbert was a Northwestern graduate. Julia Louis-Dreyfus attended Northwestern, but did not get a degree here. And Seth Meyers was a Northwestern grad. A lot of household names that began in Chicago. Now, what is improv? Well, it's a form of live performance in which most or all of the performance is created spontaneously without a script. Acting Magazine says, unlike traditional theater, which relies on carefully rehearsed lines, stage direction, and character development, improv is built on the principles of spontaneity, collaboration, and adaptability. It can be comedic or dramatic. It relies on the actors being spontaneously and creative without a set script. The performers need to be quick and adapt on the spot, and sometimes the audience participates. It relies on teamwork. The actors must be able to construct their characters quickly with gestures, accents, and voices. They must respect the validity of the imaginary environment, such as not walking into an imaginary table or surviving an imaginary gunshot. In a performance with multiple scenes, agreed upon signals are used to denote scene changes. A wipe is executed when a performer runs in front of the scene on the stage. Tapping a character in or out can also be employed. When performers are not part of the current scene, they often stand at the side or back of the stage. They can enter or exit the scene by stepping in or out of the stage center. Improv is used not only in comedy, but it's used in training performers, rehabilitating prisoners, and this has been done in the Cook County Jail, educating the intellectually challenged, overcoming anxiety, building social skills, improving self-expression, and team building in business, and improving the quality of life in memory loss patients. Although it is unscripted, performers must commit to the characters and the given circumstances to make the performance believable and engaging. It really relies on teamwork. There are several principles, including yes and this is where one actor will build upon what has just been said and take whatever is thrown down in front of him and build on it. Listening and reacting. The performers must listen to what is going on and adapt to what has just been said. They must keep the show going. Trust and collaboration. They must share creativity. So it really relies on teamwork. Nobody can commit to being the star of the show. There's a long form and a short form. of improv. The long form is similar to a short play, and it may take the form of an existing play in the theater, such as a Broadway play. Del Close of Chicago is considered the father of long-form improv. Will Ferrell, Steve Carell, and Tina Fey found their start using long form. It is the comedy form that is often performed at the Second City and I.O. theaters in Chicago. The short form has been seen on the ABC television production, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Often an idea is used from the audience, and the performance is a series of short scenes, each only a few minutes in length. The performers utilize a series of what are called theater games, which were invented by Viola Spolin. Robin Williams is an example of someone who uses short form. Improv has been around a long time. There is evidence that it was used in Africa back in 391 BC. The ancient Greeks used it. Actors would engage in spontaneous performances during the Dionysian festivals. And sometimes Shakespeare used improv on his stage. Between the 16th and 18th centuries in Italy, Commedia dell'arte was performed in the streets. And because the scenes were improvised with no written record of what the script was, actors could poke fun at central events, current events, and political figures. During the height of McCarthyism in the US, a group of left-leaning theater visionaries developed modern commedia. The roots of improv were not actually in comedy clubs. They were in Hull House, a settlement house in Chicago, where a young Viola Spolin learned about group play from sociologist Neva Boyd. Viola Spolin was an educator, director, actress, and she was considered the mother of improv. She was born as Viola Mills in 1906 to a Jewish American immigrant family. She grew up in the Humboldt Park area of Chicago with her large family. She and her family did improvisations, making fun of her aunts and uncles in an innocent manner, lovingly poking fun at them. And according to her granddaughter, she was a very lively, fun person, ready to get out there and create theater. At age 18, Spolin began studying it with Neva Boyd, a sociologist at Hull House in Chicago's Near West Side. Boyd ran the recreational training school at Hull House, where Spolin learned about group work. Boyd was a champion of the progressive education movement. She had collected non-competitive storytelling games during her extensive travels. She believed that playing with others, even from different cultures and different languages, expresses equality and sharing. And this impressed Spolin. Boyd taught Spolin that play should be non-competitive and that the teacher should be more than a moderator or a judge. Children should be allowed to be spontaneous, and allowing their self-consciousness to disappear. They should learn to cooperate and communicate by following the rules of any game. Spolin learned that group play could be a great technique for teaching theater. Again, all this relied on teamwork. In 1939, Spolin got a job as a drama teacher with the Work Progress Administration recreational project. She created what she called theater games to teach immigrant children who didn't speak the same language, and this was based on Boyd's group play philosophy. These games focused on the individual and the concept of play. She said, "I didn't sit at home and dream them up," meaning theater games. When I had a problem, I just made up a new game. And there's a picture of her on the right here in the lower left-hand corner, directing children at Hull House. Just after finishing high school, she married Wilmer Silverberg, who changed his name to Sills. They had a son named Paul, who would go on to found the Second City Theater in Chicago. As a young mother, she could no longer work. She would invite her friends over to play games, and since there were no babysitters, the infant Paul would be propped up and would watch these hilarious young women. Spolin was always performing and creating. After her divorce from Wilmer, she and a group of her other divorced friends organized the Educational Playroom on Sheridan Road. She studied theater at night at DePaul University, worked as a stage manager during the 1933 World's Fair, and studied acting in New York City. She developed theater games and theater teaching techniques for decades. She published her first book, Improvisation for the Theater, in 1963. And it's in, I think, the fifth printing now. She wrote 5 books. She emphasized spontaneity. She said the teacher should not be an authority figure. Students should feel total freedom to play without feeling self-conscious or that the teacher is judging them. It should be a vacation from one's everyday self. She believed that everyone can act, everyone can improvise. She said talent has nothing to do with it. Talent is simply a greater capacity for experiencing. Theater games, according to Spolin, need only 3 things: the rules, the players or performers, both the actors and the audience, and a space in which to play. Now theater games are used in training programs in professional life, community, and university programs. Education is not specifically related to the theater. Theater games are now used for non-theater productions, such as in elementary and secondary school, schools for the gifted and talented, schools for the intellectually disabled, studies in English, religion, mental health, and psychology, and the rehab of children and adult prisoners, which, as I said, has been tried with success in the Cook County Prison. Let's look at one of these theater games, and this one is called Gibberish. And if you've seen The Foreigner, played by Larry Shue, you'll instantly recognize this.
We're going to do gibberish. Gibberish is talking in whatever made-up language makes sense to you. You are 2 people who speak gibberish, but do not speak the same gibberish language. And Layla is the translator who speaks both languages and is translating back and forth. One of the biggest things about gibberish is that it teaches that you don't communicate just with your mouth, that words are not the most important thing, that gesture is important, that tone is important.
The important part about pizza is making sure you get the dough just right.
Hervlodet, startherend, seferen.
To me, pizza is all about what comes out of the spit.
It also teaches you that you're not doing it alone. The point of concentration is to do it as exact a physical mirror of what their partner said as possible, and then to simply say the thing that makes sense with what they did.
Oh yeah? Well, we use floor toppings and put them in the sauce.
What the performers did, there was a point at which, when they started to do those exact physical mirrors, that they were working together. They were not just taking turns.
All I was trying to do was just make you smile.
Genitive. And do you got water?
Here's a theory for you. Do you have any water?
I do.
So as you can see, this relies on teamwork and instantly responding to what has just been said, and teaches the performers to use the tone of their talk, their facial expression, and their gestures to convey their message. The Compass Theater began as the first improv theater in the United States. Spolin moved to Los Angeles with her second husband, where she opened a children's repertory theater, the Young Actors Company. And Alan Arca and Alan Alda were 2 of her young early students. This continued until 1955 when she moved back to Chicago. In Chicago, she began directing the Compass Theater, as I said, the country's first professional improv theater. In 1955, Paul Sills, that is Spolin's son, and David Shepard, who is a descendant of the Vanderbilt family, founded the Compass, a storefront theater near the University of Chicago that revolutionized American comedy. They believed that New York plays were too elitist and out of touch with their audience. And this is considered the birthplace of improv out of necessity. Their players, early players include Elaine May, Mike Nichols, and Alan Alda. Shepard dreamed of creating a Midwestern political cabaret where working class people could see themselves reflected on the stage, and the Compass opened in July 1955. Shepard and Sills could not find enough material for their program, so they were forced to go to improv because nobody could write the scripts that they envisioned. Sills turned to his mother's theater games to train actors to improvise. They began incorporating audience participation. Second City opened in December 1959. From 1960 until 65, Spolin worked with her son, Paul, as director of the Second City Company. She continued to teach and direct and develop theater game theory. She developed approximately 220 games and exercises and published the first of her 5 books in 1963. This is the first one in the 3rd edition. They were all published by Northwestern University Press. Sills, along with University of Chicago alums Bernard Solins and Howard Alk, bought a small theater in Chicago's North Side, and they named it the Second City. They continued to use Spolin's techniques to produce comedy reviews, and the Second City became one of the most influential theater companies in North America, with several theater training companies, theaters, and touring companies. They trained many of the comedy stars that became household names, and you saw about 24 of them at the beginning of this presentation. There are several theaters of note in Chicago. I don't have time to go naming all of them, but one of them was the I.O. Theater. This was founded by Del Close and Charna Alpern as Improv Olympic in 1981. But the International Olympic Committee sent a cease and desist letter to them, so the name was changed from Improv Olympic to I.O. Theater. The Annoyance Theater was conceived in an Italian restaurant in 1987, and it is known for its subversive language and theme, according to the cast. They say that only censorship is self-imposed, and some of the productions can be rather bawdy. They performed long-form improv as well as musical improv, comedy sketches, and full-length musicals, as well as cabaret. And Stephen Colbert is one of their alums. So what is the current state of improv in Chicago? Well, Chicago has established itself as the place to be for improv. It attracts people, young and old, mostly young, to Chicago to take classes in improv at the Second City and other theaters. And Spolin's creations continue to draw people to the art because you can be your usual self. I'd like to thank Jillian Brubaker for her help with this presentation. She is an alum of the Second City and I.O. Theaters, and she gave me invaluable assistance in the preparation, sharing her firsthand knowledge and experience. And thank you, my audience, and I look forward to getting together again virtually again next month.